Good to have you join us again today. My name is Dakbo Aruwajoe. The Senate is not sitting today, so therefore the ministerial screening will not be holding today. You may recall that just 2 of the ministerial nominees were just screened yesterday instead of the 8 that was supposed to be screened. And later on, we had the news that it was postponed till today, the screening. But later in the evening, we heard the news that the screening has been postponed to Thursday. That's a plenary till Thursday. So therefore, the screening should continue on Thursday. But there's a sitting today, and that's the CCT, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, will be sitting today to look at the allegations of false declaration of assets of the Senate President, talking about Senator Bukola Saraki. So we'll be looking at the 2 today, and to help us do the discussion, I have Daniel Akinlami, is a politician. Thank you, Daniel, for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me.
Also, I have Jide Johnson, is the Deputy Provost at Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Thank you very much for being part of it. Thank you very much. Daniel, I'll start with you. Were you surprised eventually that the screening will not be holding today? And were you surprised that yesterday only 2 people were screened? Do you want to share your reaction to what has been happening, the screening so far?
Well, in the first instance, I wasn't surprised that the plenary was postponed. If you follow the political quagmire that's been happening around the upper house, maybe for the past few weeks, you know that the clashing of the CCB appearance today of the Senate President and the ongoing screening will definitely throw up another dimension of politics in the Senate. Looking at the scenario, Amaechi was listed to be screened today. And I couldn't imagine a situation where Deputy Senate President Akinlami is going to preside over that screening and to be populated by the PDP senators who are more or less not inclined to getting Amaechi skate through. Then the same way, you know, the internal party politics going on between the office of the Senate President and the other APC members of the floor. So perhaps they thought it's more safer for them to move to this meeting. Then the Senate President can go and face the other issues at the CCB. Meanwhile, it's safer because nothing will happen behind the scene against their control, so to say. So, but Thursday is not far, and I wish they move to Thursday to we hold, because the CCB is supposed to run from today till Friday. I guess. So then, apart from that, I was also surprised for the fact that the Senate came out yesterday to reduce the numbers of the nominees just to screen to 3. So eventually 2 people showed up. But to a large extent, it just shows some level of inconsistency in the upper house. If you are given the job of screening and pruning the individuals that will man the affair of the country the next 4 years, and you, the agency, the arm of government that's supposed to see to this, is also displaying some level of inconsistency, it calls for a serious concern. Serious concern.
Yes. What about you, JJ? Do you think it calls for concern? Because I look at it, people will say the Senate has been on a little bit of recess just to come back and screen these people. It's no big deal, that's what people think. But why is it dragging all the while? And I think it's Nigerians that are suffering all this. Is it going to continue for a long time, do you think?
I think both the presidency and the Senate should share part of the blame. It took the presidency almost 4 months to prepare the list and to send the list to the Senate. And the Senate, last week we were all applauding the Senate for doing a good job in terms of the screening of the ministerial nominee, scheduled for last week, and in terms of the performance, because they gave us the opportunity to see, and they received flack too for those that they are allowed to take a bow to go. So essentially, we should allow institution to function, and we should be patient about it. If you could take the presidency 4 months, I see no reason why we couldn't give the Senate 1 month to screen. However, I think that we need to get to the level in which government will run 24/7 in Nigeria. The public service in most society are running 24/7. I remember when the healthcare bill was passed in the United States. The Senate had to starve off their holiday. They sat all through for some days, and when the Republican-controlled Congress wanted to change the bill, I think about last year or 2 years ago, Ted Cruz gave 72 hours filibuster. So I'm looking forward to a situation whereby our Senate can sit overnight to attend to issues that affect you and I. But all in all, I think we need to give them the time to actually screen this senator.
But they had the time. Just look at it. What could have been the reason for them to prune down from 8, I guess, that they were meant to screen yesterday? They pruned to 3 and later on to 2. Is that excusable?
Well, it's not excusable, but don't forget that there are some other distractions, political distractions.
Should there be distractions?
Concerning, you see, you know why the framers of the Constitution provided immunity for the chief executive officer. Imagine if the president of Nigeria is to appear before a court this morning. What do you think will happen to the state of affairs of the nation? Are you getting my point? What do you think will happen? The moment I know I'm appearing in court tomorrow and I'm presiding over an affair, I have to see my lawyer. So basically, you cannot separate the screening of 3 nominees yesterday with the event that is happening.
Okay.
With the event that is happening.
You
can't divorce the two. You can't divorce the two.
But what is happening really? The Amechi, the postponement of Amechi screening, the suspense really. Is it? It looks like it's Amechi that we're giving the suspense to, but the suspense is for Nigerians altogether, because we cannot wait for this screening, because we need governance to start immediately or to continue for where it stopped. So do you think this suspense, is it not getting too much?
Well, I think the drama is unnecessary.
And the Amechi one, do you think it's political?
Well, the Amechi one may be political. After all, we have a group that came up to petition his nomination, and there are individuals as well, senators from his state, who are not giving up in allowing him to be screened. So, but I want to quickly talk about this same scenario we're talking about, the screening, why they were pruning down from 10 or 8 to 3. I think we have a serious problem here. We have a group of people who have been elected, but some of them are lazy to do the job they've been elected to do. And why am I saying this? If you look at the scenario that happened last week very well, the 2-day sitting, the first 2 days sitting, and you could look at the trend of the activity at the floor of the Senate. Oftentimes, the screening will start around 11:30. And when you see these people, they bubble with energy as soon as the screening. After like 2-3 nominees are screened, their energy reduced. Oh, they were just after, maybe from number 4, 5, they were just after they should just pass and go. They were not ready to pay attention to details anymore. Take a bow. Once it's getting to like 2 o'clock, you see them standing up, going to the toilet and coming back. And the second phase of people, they screen for those days. They rushed the screening. And that is just to show you that many of them are lazy. They are lazy to do thorough job. I don't know why they cannot be there from morning till evening, because this is not what you're going to do at every plenary session. This is just a period where you need to give this attention to this national job. But having said that, I believe that they have their rules, and oftentimes they can amend those rules at the floor to extend the sitting. So we should get these people to do more work. That's my concern. Okay. We should get them to do more work. And more so on the Amechi saga.
Yes.
If the Senate is not careful, this may end up creating another crisis between the executive and the legislative arm.
How?
In the sense that If you have a nominee from his state, backed by his party, backed by the presidency, and his CV is there to speak for him, we should live above local politics and do what is right. Now, the Senate Ethics Committee has declared that they will not meddle with the case that is in the court. So definitely the petitions will not be considered. Okay. So we were not actually waiting for the petition to be tabled. They just need to clear him and let him appear for the screening.
But Jide, constitutionally, I think there's a 4-day window now for Amaechi to be screened or either rejected.
We need to expunge that aspect out of our constitution. In fact, it's not even our constitution. It was written in secret by some people. There have been clamor for people, you know, the constitution, the introductory part of the people of Nigeria. I didn't know whether that constitution was subjected to referendum. And then part of the process of the legislature is to review the constitution. I think that aspect they need to review it, because invariably you turn chief executive officers to dictator. Are you with me? You turn them to so anybody the president appoints. I am not for Amaechi. I'm neither against him. But one of the problems I have with us is that we tend to personalize everything. Rather than build the institution, we'll be talking about personality. The process that is in place is for them to screen. And what should we talk about? We should get to the point in which that when we want to screen ministers, 1, their portfolio should be attached. 2, you should allow committees at the committee level. The critical work are done at the committee level. The Committee of Education, we screen the Minister of Education. The Committee on Petroleum, we screen the Minister of Education, so that you can ask tailor-made questions.
That is if the committee knows or the Senate knows who is going for education.
That's
what we are saying. That's the way it is done. Why do senators have aides? They have aides because they are aides to do research. Why would you interview a minister without asking him for the policy trust? For his policy trust, if he is appointed in court if he is appointed in court as the chief executive officer of Ministry of Communication. Do you know how many parastatals and how many agencies that are under communication, under transport, under aviation? You are now appointing a chief executive officer, and we are now saying, oh, you know what? The Senate is wasting time. Oh, the Senate is not taking time. You see, there are two schools of thought. Some are saying the Senate is asking them to take a bow and go. Some are saying the Senate is not thorough enough. I think we need to do it. We must not run government as business as usual. Election is gone. We shouldn't be partisan when it comes to selecting people to run the affairs of this state. You see, Mr. Akinlami said something a while ago. He said, you know, Saraki wouldn't want PDP. The moment you are elected, you are no longer APC or PDP. You are the president of Nigeria. You are the senator of the Federal Republic. And that is the perspective that we need to drum in and rein into our political class.
And do you think it's going to sink in?
Sink in?
Yes, because you know the background, we're from the political background. Everybody wants to be divided one way or the other.
Well, you see what division has cost American politics. You know, American politics has never been divisive until under Obama. Check. There was nothing the last Congress could do. There was nothing Nancy Pelosi could do in her last year. It's always been crisis upon crisis upon crisis upon crisis upon crisis. But you need unity of purpose to run a government. And until we move above board, I'm telling you, it's PDP, it's APC. Would that put food on the table of an average Nigerian?
I wonder. Daniel, let me come to you. So the whole idea was why the plenary did not hold today was because Saraki has to be at the CCT. And because of the fear that an Ekweremadu can do what?
Well, perhaps that may be part of the reasons.
Because they said officially, the way the clerk said it, said the Senate president has to go for official reasons. Could this be official?
So that could be part of the reason, but there could also be some other motives behind this move. And we cannot completely exhaust some of the other things that were going behind the scenes.
Like the fear you have is that if the Senate president is not around,
definitely a rational, a rational leadership will definitely think of something like that. And right now, this is a Senate that is shaking. The leadership of the Senate is shaking. So it's being shared between a senator from APC and a senator from PDP. The Senate president is from APC, deputies from PDP. So it's expected that rationally the Senate president team and his caucus will consider something like that. It's too early to leave that seat for his deputy to take charge of plenary. And the fear could be in different angles. The fear could be they could take things out of their hand. The fear could be before a return, it could be impeached. The fear could be the way they handle the screening. So the fear could be anything.
Weren't all these well thought of when they had this unusual collaboration?
There is an angle. The same Senate president was expecting a judgment from Court of Appeal. I don't want us to go into that direction. So definitely it was very positive that Court of Appeal would have bailed him out. So that was it.
We will definitely still talk about what's down my mind.
What is wrong with the arrangement we have at the National? You have it in Plateau, you have it in Nasarawa, where the speaker is from one party and the deputy speaker is from another party. What's wrong?
But if there's nothing wrong,
but
why is it that the Senate is not? Wait, why is it that Senate is not sitting today?
Why is it that the Senate
is not sitting?
Is not sitting today.
when you have the Senate president busy somewhere.
Let me put it across to you. CCTV, is it an arm of the judiciary or an arm of the executive? CCTV or what?
Okay, the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
Is it an arm of the judiciary or an arm of the executive?
Is that a question for me?
I'm throwing it to you, and probably people at home. I'm not a lawyer.
Maybe people at home, because I'm not meant to answer
questions
an arm on this.
To my knowledge, I'm not knowledgeable about everything. Okay. To my knowledge, it's an administrative court.
Okay.
Administrative courts are component part, though they are parajudiciary agencies. They are part and parcel of the executive. Okay. And probably somebody at home who happens to be a lawyer will educate us on that. Are you getting my point? Okay. So basically, that angle you have not explored.
Okay, but my question is, I'll come to you, Daniel, but my question is, why is the Senate not sitting today?
Why is the Senate not sitting
today?
Because in Africa, with the exception of you, we personalize offices. We've seen situations whereby governors will travel, they will bypass their deputy, and they will hand over to secretary.
Even though they are from the same party.
Even though they are from the same party. The examples are bound in this country. It is the African thing in us. We always believe in people other than institutions.
There should be something wrong.
I have asked you a question.
Yes.
What happens to Nigeria, hypothetically, in 2023, by the time Buhari finishes his second term? 2023. What happens to Nigeria by the time Buhari finishes his second term? I'm just putting it in hypothetically. What happens to Nigeria? We love individuals. We are looking for one man. Rather than put institution. You said it. The court, the appeal court, they were meant to pass a judgment. They said the judgment is postponed indefinitely. Do you have that in civilized crime? Do you have that?
Indefinitely. You said there's nothing wrong in having like Ekweremadu.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. But I think the reason why they could not sit today is obvious, and we don't need to drag that too much. But it's obvious in the sense that there is internal politics going in the Senate. These are individuals from different parties, and they've not bonded well. This Senate has been having
I told you before that it has an official.
Yes, so we shouldn't. It's an internal politics. It's an internal politics. So,
but what happens if, because the Code of Conduct Tribunal has to sit on this case for 3 days now? I think the 21st, 22nd, 23rd or thereabout. So what happens now? Because they said they
are you still expecting sitting tomorrow?
No, even Thursday tomorrow.
Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know the power that is vested in the Attorney General of the Federation, who happens to be a minister, an appointee? You see, if you want to resolve, my advice to the gladiators in APC, every big party that collapsed started from within. The way they handle and manage, it's easy to achieve success. But to manage success is the most, and it's becoming evidently clear that is taking a party that controls the majority in the Senate to clear even, let me bring in the issue of the personality you have been talking about. The Director General of their presidential campaign is taking them. Now, it has now turned to a pawn that they are now using for negotiation, political negotiation. Some of these issues could be resolved at the party level, at the caucus level. Why do you have caucuses? But because in Nigeria, we don't believe in institution. The moment you elect the president, either the president is larger than the party, or the party is bigger than the president, or the governor is bigger than... You have caucuses. At caucuses, you resolve issues. And this issue, once it is resolved, you move on.
Do you think the plenary will hold tomorrow?
The plenary? If Saraki is going to appear tomorrow, the plenary will not hold. The plenary will not. If Saraki is going to appear tomorrow, the plenary will not hold.
Why do you think that?
Why?
Yes, because I asked Daniel why.
Why? Daniel, God bless him, has done some pretty analysis concerning that, because you know, if these one, there are some within the party, within the structure, that wouldn't want a PDP deputy Senate president to preside. Are you getting? Are you getting my point? Two, that's from the party perspective. From the Saraki's old perspective, he wouldn't want to leave the floor if something else could happen while he's away. Something unfortunate. So something unfortunate could happen. Could happen while he's away. But my advice is that we must allow institutions to run. The way this thing is being handled, it's as if the presidency is trying to turn the legislature to an enemy.
Well, the news we have now from Abuja is that Senator Bukola Saraki is and his entourage presently at the plenary, not the plenary, at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Okay. So what are we looking at today? Because now that we have a court of appeal, which you thought would be the last resort of the Senate president, the Court of Appeal has said, okay, we are not even ruling on all this. We don't. So the fate of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, which is like a lower court to the Court of Appeal, the fate of this case is not even known now. Yeah. So what could happen tomorrow?
Well, the scenario that could play out in the next few days may be that whatever the judgment that's coming out from this Code of Conduct Bureau at the end of the trial is subject to that verdict from the Court of Appeal that entertain the suit about the jurisdiction of this CCB. And I sincerely hope this will not lead to another constitutional crisis. Because if CCB give the judgment to declare that Saraki was guilty, that's in case they give such a judgment that Saraki is declared guilty. And he has to forfeit his position word of view as the punishment that is prescribed for offense under this kind of scenario.
That is if the CCTV, now, CCT says so.
CCB end their trial by that verdict. And a week after or 2 weeks after, the Court of Appeal eventually released this judgment that is hanging, and the judgment declared that the CCB does not even have the jurisdiction to entertain the case in the first instance. Everything returns to status quo. That means the case never existed. But, you know, as it is, the individuals involved, CCB and maybe the people prosecuting Saraki as well, the Office of the Attorney General, will definitely not take it easy. Having gone that far to get that verdict, they won't allow it to be thrown away. So I pray we can avoid this logjam.
Can we really avoid this?
I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be a long-drawn battle. A long-drawn battle, because you have to get to the Supreme Court, to my knowledge, before you could have a final say on the matter. And until the court makes a pronouncement, nobody can assume anything. You are assumed innocent.
And according to history, this could take years.
And so basically, if we get to that stage where the courts make pronouncement, then we'll come to whether you leave the office or whatever. But my advice, I'm not hired as a consultant, but I'm consulting for them, is for them to put their house in order. Public opinion is a fickle and fragile commodity. Fickle, that's what Abraham Lincoln said. Fickle and fragile commodity. The mere fact that you are popular today in the eyes of the public as a party, as an institution, as an individual, might not make you to be popular in 4 years' time.
So they shouldn't take it for granted.
Exactly. They shouldn't take it for granted. And they need to put, look, with the exception, you see, because a lot of people have said, do you know how many Nigerians that have falsified their age and are occupying positions? How many Nigerians? In fact, you go to the civil service, you go, even in academia that I belong, you have professors that have falsified their age under oath. So essentially, what I'm saying is, look, Nigerians said, you know what, we want to do away with the past. We want to forget the past. 2015, we want to change, and there is a change. I think we should move on. We should move on. Whatever you have done in the past, what we will not tolerate is for you to do anything new again. Let the past be past, and let us move ahead. Because if we begin to look at the past, we will never make any. It's like running another. You see, I read in the papers yesterday, they said, you know what, the military is going to look at the election in Ekiti. They are going to look at the election in Osun. They are not looking at the issue in Boko Haram. If you are running a race and you are looking back, you can never make any progress. We need to start on a fresh, clean of state. Give everybody a tabula rasa. You know what, this is the era of change. If you are caught, you'll be prosecuted. But if you want to investigate,
Henceforth.
If you want to investigate, where do we stop? Where do you draw the line?
Okay. A question comes to my mind. Please, I want to ask him this question before I come to you. Will there be a day in the Senate that Ekweremadu will be presiding over that Senate? Can there be a day?
There should be. Because this is, if you are a senator, you are a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You are not PDP. You are not APC. You are there to represent the interest of your constituents, those that voted for you, those that voted against you, and those that didn't even vote. That is the way we should see politics.
In a normal
politics is the art of taking decision, and that's the way it should be.
Daniel, what do you think? Will there be a day that it will
that's
preside?
Subject to the politics in the Senate. We cannot predict that. It's subject to the politics in the Senate in the sense that Ekweremadu will probably only preside if the Senate president is not available. So it's subject to their policy.
But the Senate president is not available today.
Well, the politics still going on.
Ekweremadu should have presided.
It's still going on right now.
So every time the Senate president has to leave the country or is occupied, they need to look for a way to postpone the plenary.
Not in the same scenario that he is attending a trial at CCB. Some other times in the future, it may not be in the country, it may not be available to attend the plenary, and Ekweremadu will stand in for him. Perhaps when the ground are settled, as our people used to say, you know. So, but now the ground is not settled.
But wait, when will the ground settle? Because Nigerians
obviously
are waiting.
We pray they put their house in order.
It's a long time now since the inauguration, a long time since the election, a long time since the Senate, the members have been there. They've collected enough salaries, enough. So this is not a short time for them to start working. When will Nigerians start? When will Nigerians start enjoying what they meant to do? Because they've not even moved any important motion of recent.
We're very sad indeed that we are still at this point, this November. We are entering into November very soon. And you see what we are still dragging, ministerial screening. We waited for almost 3 months before we get the list out. And this same National Assembly, both the upper and the lower house, has been on recess for you know, like 3 or 4 times now since they were
a long one.
Perhaps they've broken a record with that as well. Because since 1999, I have not noticed if we've had it this rough this way. So, and the sad part of this whole development is the fact that this year is gone already. And let me explain this, because by the time these guys will end the screening, let's say the end of this month. Today is 21st.
Yes.
So by the end of this month. So before they are sworn in,
that is if
maybe by first or second week in November. Now, when they are sworn in, they will first take all the reports, all the notes, all the whatever the pump sex have to submit to them. And they will study all of that before they start working.
But some
maybe
people are
January.
saying it might be possible for us not to even have ministers this year.
It's still possible. It's still possible.
And whose fault is that? You see, we are saying that the Senate has gone on recess. If this list had been submitted 4 months, what would the Senate do? The day-to-day administration, you see, this patronism.
But Jide, the people will argue that has happened already.
This patronism.
Why are we complicating the whole
now,
issue?
the issue is, if you had given the list 3 months ago, you see, the legislature cannot even do anything without the executive. You don't get it. But the committees.
It has happened already. The executive knows is to be blamed for all this, the lateness of getting the list out. But must the legislative arm of the government complicate the issue the more?
Dapo, if you want to hire the chief executive officer of TVC, how many months will it take you?
Okay, let's go on a break. We need to go on a short break. When you come back, will you continue where you stopped? Do stay with us, please.